The Arizona Wildcats beat the Colorado Buffaloes. Final score, Arizona Wildcats 82 to the Colorado Buffaloes 78. Um, there wasn't a lot of sharing in this game. There wasn't a lot of assists in this game on the part of Arizona. Arizona only had 8 assists as compared to Colorado Buffaloes, which had 12 assists. Um, there just wasn't a whole lot of sharing, and I think that maybe maybe that's one of the factors for the Arizona Wildcats why they're having such a difficult time as the season is coming to a close here. But they did win, so that means something. And the Arizona Wildcats were not playing at home, even though um, over at MGM Grand is considered you know McHale North for the Arizona Wildcats supposedly. So there was that kind of home court advantage because there was a lot of Arizona Wildcat fans at MGM Grand. Um, but a few things that I saw is, well, Josh Scott from Colorado Buffaloes wasn't as much of a factor in this game as he was the last time when the Arizona Wildcats played the Colorado Buffaloes. Josh Scott, um, he got 16 points in this game. I think in the other game, I think he got like 26 or 28 points or something like that. So he did much better in that other game. Josh Scott is 6'10". Um, Tarczewski was defending against Josh Scott. Tarczewski is 7 foot, and so he was he was pretty much defending against Josh Scott. Josh Scott, I noticed that um, 5, I think, of the defensive breakdowns trying to defend against Josh Scott were from Tarczewski. So Tarczewski failed 5 times in defending Josh Scott and trying to get Josh Scott not to score. But he did pretty good job on trying to shut down Josh Scott. Josh Scott um, might be better, like I said, he might be better off being defended by Anderson or might be better off being defended by Tollefson because Tollefson didn't have nearly as many defensive breakdowns and Anderson didn't have nearly as amount of defensive breakdowns as Tarczewski did, and I noticed that one time one of Anderson's, well, actually I think Anderson only had one defensive breakdown, was against Josh Scott. So Anderson, to me, he is not as much a risk taker. I was looking at how many times he fouled out in games this season. He only fouled out one time. So I think that whenever you foul out, then I think that you're showing that you're willing to lay it all on the line to uh, to make that extra effort and and go all the way and try and do whatever you can to try and win. And so Anderson only did foul out with one game. I think it was against Boise State, and that was quite a while ago. So it would be, I would I would defend against Anderson's ability to give that extra push and show that desire and work harder if Anderson was had more games that he fouled out in this season. trying to win no matter what it took, you know. Um, the other one that had a lot of defensive breakdowns was Trier. Trier had 7 defensive breakdowns, but Trier, at the same time, he did have the highest score of the team. He did score 23 points. I think he was one that had 3 assists. So out of the 8 assists that the total 8 of 8 assists that the Arizona Wildcats had. So, and that he's another one that I don't. I think he's maybe fouled out maybe once or twice in the game this season. So I don't really know if he's willing to lay it all on the line to you know to go that extra mile and to stop defenders from scoring on him. There was, I think, 3 or 4 of the three-pointers because, I mean, Colorado Buffaloes could not make a three-pointer in the first half. They didn't make any three-pointers in the first half. I think in the second half, I think they made 5 three-pointers in the second half, and that's kind of how the Colorado Buffaloes got into this game was, you know, making threes and also threes the old-fashioned way, as they would dribble penetrate and then get fouled and then go to the free throw line. I think I saw Josh Scott do that once. I think I saw George King also do that. George King had 22 points. I think he knocked down a couple three-pointers. 2 of those three-pointers he was being defended by Trier. So I think that Trier needs to step up his outside defense. King is 6'6". Trier is, I don't know, what is he, 6'6" or 6'8" or something like that. So or 6'5". He's close to the same height as King. So that might have been a good matchup. But like I said, Trier needs to increase his defensive ability, and it's understandable a little bit, his defensive deficiency, because he's a freshman this year, and you know the best defenders are PJC, I think, and York and Allen. Allen is a really good defender, I think. I tend to think that Allen is less willing to give up his defensive prowess than York. I think York is more willing to just let it go and you know, not defend as strongly as Allen would, because I don't think that York fouled out in any games at all, or maybe one, but I just, and most of the fouls, mostly he got maybe 1 foul or 2 fouls, so I just don't see him, you know, putting it on the line and saying, you know, I don't care if I foul out or if I don't foul out, because I want to win this game no matter what. And his way of winning the game, I think, is more shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot as much as you can, and try and win the game that way. He's a fantastic three-point shooter, and there's been quite a few games that York has been able to knock down three-pointers and actually pull us out and win the game for us because of his three-pointers. One specifically that you can mention is Cal. I mean, we were down in the hole. Arizona was down the hole for most of the game, I think for all of the game, and York actually was able to pull out the victory for us right there at the end and get us able to win that game against Cal. But Anyway, that's not really, not really. That's not for another time. The other one was Josh Fortune, and Josh Fortune, I think he's 6'5". So Josh Fortune, um, okay, George King was being defended by pretty much by Trier, and George King had 22. So we might need to get somebody else on George King. PJC a little bit. PJC is a 5'10" guard, so maybe that's just way too much for PJC to handle. So maybe Allen might be better on Trier on. Maybe Allen might be better defender against George King, um, or maybe York, might be better defending against George King, because George King, like I said, he got 22 points in this game, so he was their highest scorer for the Colorado Buffaloes. It wasn't Josh Scott this time that scored for the Colorado Buffaloes. That was the biggest scorer. It was George King this time. And George King, like I said, knocked down a couple three-pointers. They were on Trier. But Josh Fortune, he made some nice contributions right there at the end in the second half for the Colorado Buffaloes. And like I said before, Colorado Buffaloes they made all their three-pointers in the second half, and that's kind of pretty much how they got back into this game, because they were down 20 to 37 at half. So the Arizona Wildcats had a 17-point lead at half. The Arizona Wildcats actually had a 22-point lead at one time in this game. I think it was sometime in the first half that the Arizona Wildcats had that much of a lead. But in the second half, then the Colorado Buffaloes were able to kind of pull their way back into this game, and they were able to pull their way back into this game with some three-pointers, and they had some contributions from Fortune, from George King, from Josh Scott. It was mostly George King that made some contributions. It was Josh Fortune that made some contributions. Akazili made some contributions. He made some nice contributions. He didn't score any three-pointers, but he made some nice contributions. I think Josh Scott might have been better defended against by Tollefson or maybe Anderson. I just don't think that Anderson is willing to put that extra foot forward, because he's too afraid. He's not willing to go that extra mile. So it might be Tollefson that might be better off defending against Josh Scott. I think we would have had more luck if we would have put Allen on George King. That might have been a little bit better result. George King wouldn't have scored 22 points, but that kind of my thoughts on that. As far as Josh Fortune is 6'5". The ones that I was thinking that you could put on him that might have been a little bit better would be PJC or York, but PJC is 5'10", around about, so there would be 5'10" to 6'6", be too much of a size difference maybe. But then again, then PJC he's a veteran defender, so maybe he would preoccupy Fortune so much that Fortune would not be able to knock down those significant field goals that he did right there during the end of this game. But anyway, it was a positive end result for the Arizona Wildcats. Pretty positive. The Arizona Wildcats beat the Colorado Buffaloes. Final score: Arizona Wildcats 82 to the Colorado Buffaloes 78.